All right, it's that time. You sit there and you hit buttons and you're thinking everything's going to work out right, and of course it doesn't. So, about 9:06. Sorry about that because pushing buttons has never been my forte. So it is a Friday. It's a Freestyle Friday, which means we have to start the show off one way and a one way only. Wow, the buttons are going to be like this today.
Come on, man. Go for it, dude.
It's Friday! Friday! Friday!
It is a Freestyle Friday, SDH AM. John here, you there. And all we ask is over the weekend, be safe. Please do that. Take your time. If you have issues on secondary roads, just don't. Make sure that if you are going to get stuff done today, you get stuff done today. You get it done the earlier, the better. I've got the big 55 gassed up and ready to go. And I'll be watching all of that as well, all of you. So just be safe, be safe, be safe. All right, here's the rundown for today. Before 9:30, it is going to be an opportunity where we get to take a peek at opening kickoff, which means it's going to be the OFC Pro League. It's going to be taking a look at everything else going on around the planet. We're going to focus on Trinity Rodman. 9:30, Michael Parkhurst is going to join us, and we'll catch his words of wisdom from Beyond Goals Mentoring and what it's like for them. And there's a reason that I'm wearing the sweatshirt that I am. We'll get into that as well. 10 o'clock, it's our first visit with Fort Wayne FC. They are getting ready to be one of the expansion programs in USL League One. Sporting Director Oliver Gage is going to drop by. We're going to talk about the build. And if you're sitting there thinking, Fort Wayne, wait a minute. Yeah, that's DeMarcus Beasley's project that he has been piecing together. And with DMB traveling the planet and all of his commitments, we get to catch up with Sporting Director Oliver Gage, who knows what it's like to start things from scratch. And he's been with DeMarcus as far back as Houston and the Dynamo days. So we'll talk about the build, talk about the why, talk about Fort Wayne, and what they're getting ready for, because they're building their own soccer-specific stadium as well. So we'll get into that with Oliver Gage at 10 o'clock. Nino Torres is going to join us. He had something that happened in South America that we need to know about coming on about 10:30. Then we'll get you ready for the weekend. We'll talk John Textor, beat 2, 3, 4. And we'll get you ready for everything else going on around the planet. Probably going to go past 11:05. I know that comes as a real shock to all of you, that will get you ready for the weekend in a bunch of different ways. So it's going to be a stacked show. It's going to be a good show, and we can't wait to see what is on y'all's mind collectively, the second person plural, y'all, you all. So what's on your mind coming into the weekend as well. Great to see all of you as well. So Alex and Ricky and Abby is still at the ISC meetings in Denver, where she says it's freaking cold, +9 and a wind chill of -5. Yeah, well, it's going to be like that here, kind of, sort of, at OSG HQ and Studio HD. That is going to be happening next week, where it's going to be, from what I understand, temps in the 30s, lows in the teens. And I don't think there's going to be any precipitation attached to it, mercifully, but it's going to be just cold. So bundle up, get everything covered, and all the things. All right. So that is your rundown for the morning. So let's get you into opening kickoff, presented by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Start your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee is a part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy bodied, notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee. And this is our OFC Pro update. Matches that didn't have to dodge the weather. They had their two in what we have here in the overnight. And if you missed our interview with William Cardona, formerly of Virginia Tech, now of Vanuatu United, he came off the bench. Actually, he got the start overnight in their matchup that ended up as a tight 2-1 loss to South Island United. And it was 2 goals in the first half. South Island United got the 2-0 advantage into the break. 4 changes for Vanuatu United heading into the second half. They made a difference. They get a goal with about 25 to go. They ended up with an equalizer that was pulled off the board by VAR, and it ends up with a 2-1 win for South Island United over Vanuatu United. Once again, Willie Cardona getting the starting nod. Active, had a couple of opportunities, was active in corner kicks as well, trying to set up the offense, chasing after equalizers. So we got to find stats, because I went to SofaScore and the stats didn't exist. So we're going to try and find the stats that are attached to what's going on here. So let me see. Do we have the stats? Do we have anything? No, we don't have anything from OFC to try and, well, wait a second. Got my update from that on the 2-1. Just has match day photos, post-match media content. No, I don't need the post-match content. I need stats. Goals in the 4th and the 9th minute by Futzen and Ryan Futzen here as Zeb. And then Alex Sunil scored in the 67th for Vanuatu. So 2-1 win, and South Island United gets the Duke there. In the other matchup that happened in the overnight, it was another one for Auckland FC. Auckland so far is perfect. They are 3-0. They beat Bula FC on a 12th minute goal by Daniel Norman, and it was Auckland FC 1, Bula FC 0. And we have lineups and stats. We got head-to-head and stats and things. Juice Box is obviously heavy in the favor of Auckland at a minus 550 going in. And 17 fouls called, 10 on Bula. We don't have like individual stats and ratings and things like that. So, okay. So that's where we are. It was halftime 1-0 and then a red in the 64th to Everton O'Leary. But right now, as the league sits, Auckland is 3 on the spin. They're up top with the 3-0 record. They have they've got 9 points. And they also have played the most matches. South Melbourne and Solomon, they have 3 points each, but they've also only played once. South Island got the win in their second match. Bula and Vanuatu have 1 point each. Tahiti United and PNG Hikari have only played 1 match. And later tonight, it is going to be Solomon and Tahiti. This one is at 8:30 our time, and then at 12:30 in the morning, PNG Hikari and South Melbourne. So that is your OFC Pro League update. And we will keep you posted on anything and everything going on there that is attached to the league going forward. So it's been fun to be able to tell those stories and to be able to share them with you. And we're not done by any stretch of the imagination. We're trying to catch up with the 4 teams that we haven't had the chance to catch up with, plus the league in and of itself. So we're going to continue to tell the stories of the OFC Pro League as the season goes along. But that's your OFC Pro League update. Auckland FC, 3 wins out of the blocks. Everybody else is chasing, but the weather has played havoc. And so some folks have only played 1 match when they really should have played 2, and those will get made up somewhere along the line with the hub system. So that is your opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. Starting your day with the most important stories in the game, the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy-bodied with notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. All right, big news, obviously, yesterday out of the NWSL. And it was the signing of Trinity Rodman for a 3-year deal ending through 2028, worth over $2 million annually, including bonuses. Highest paid player in league history, highest paid female player in the world, according to her agent, Mike Sankowski, of upper 90. Aitana Bonmati was previously reported to be the world's highest paid women's player. Sophia Wilson, remember, became the first player to make north of $1 million in the NWSL with her most recent contract when she exercised her option for this season. So yesterday in Los Angeles, you had a press conference with Trinity Rodman, Michelle Kang, Spirit President of Soccer Operations Haley Carter, and CEO Kim Stone. And this was at BMO Field, where Rodman is training with the WNT as they have their 2 matches in Carson and in Santa Barbara over the weekend and on Tuesday. And so Bart Keeler, when he comes in on Monday, will discuss match number 1, probably discuss Rodman, and get you ready for match number 2. So then you have the actual signing of the deal, brought in the leather binder where they open it up, put the pen, and you see the pen, and the pen gets signs the contract. They didn't do the hovering over the contract photo. They did that. They had the photo with everybody standing with the jersey and everything that was attached to that. So it was an important moment for the NWSL going forward. Morning, David. And so we have a couple of sound bites here to play for you that was a part of the press opportunity. First up, here is Trinity Rodman herself discussing what it means to continue her time with Washington Spirit.
Going into off season, it was just kind of like, okay, what are my next steps? Like, where do I want to go with soccer, with life? Like, what's the next steps? And the one question, and I don't even remember who had said it to me, but like making my decision, the one question I was asked was like, do you feel like you're finished with Spirit? Like, can you say that and feel confident leaving? And like, I didn't even need a half a second. And I was like, no, like I'm not. Like, I don't feel ready to make a different decision. And that's just, again, getting drafted here and like developing and maturing and learning and failing at Spirit and NDC. It's become so much of my legacy and my story. But on top of that, I still feel like there's so much more I have to give and so much more that I want to do. And this, again, is a moment. Again, another check in the box. But yeah, and then on top of that, the fan base, the stadium, like you can't. Even other NWSL teams that get these amount of fans, it's not the same, I can tell you. And we all feel it. I feel it. And you see it with all the interactions I have. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So Trinity Rodman there as a part of the Q&A after the contract signing. And then in addition to the conversation that was had with Kim Stone and Michelle Kang, which we'll get into in a second, Haley Carter was asked about what it's like to have, as a part of her new gig, what it's like to have Trinity Rodman under the fold. Once again, courtesy of our friends at the Washington Spirit and the NWSL.
Yeah, it is nice not to have to try and come up with game plans to deal with the trend spin. You know, I think it's almost doing a disservice to talk just about the impact that Trent has on the field, but on the field she's incredibly creative. Her acceleration, her change of direction, you know, she can really create something out of nothing in the attacking third, and that is incredibly difficult to try and plan against. But what I appreciate the most about Trent is her ability to process the game quickly. She makes decisions at speed that at an elite level. That's incredibly difficult to combat. It's incredibly difficult to anticipate. She knows when she wants to take defenders on, when it's the right time to combine, when she can get in behind. And again, just an elite force. So to be able to retain Trent's talent here within the club and within the NWSL as a whole is really, really exciting, and I'm thankful that she chose to stick it with us.
No doubt about that from a Washington Spirit perspective. And what this does is it makes, and Michelle Kang made this point, it makes Washington a destination. It is not just something where you're just going to sign folks and it would be something where, okay, you're a way station. You're a way station to other destinations, wherever that might be. And so it was made clear in the negotiations that Trinity Rodman did not want to hamstring the Spirit as a club by signing whatever deal she was going to sign. And so you have that from a Trinity Rodman perspective as you're trying to assemble a squad, because remember, you only have a cap that goes a certain way. The cap can take you so far. And so it is now a way with a marquee player in Trinity Rodman where you can have someone who is there in the community, who has an impact on the game globally, who has an impact on the game in the league, who has an impact on the game at every single step of the process when it comes to the geography and the reach that is attached. And so you keep Trinity Rodman. Oh, okay. So globally, Washington Spirit are like, hey, we kept Trinity Rodman. Don't think that this doesn't rub off on other players around the world. Oh, Trinity Rodman's there. Hey, what about, the opportunity for me if I was interested in doing something like that, coming from League X and going to the NWSL? It makes Washington a destination for the next handful of years. And the thought of keeping her was not just something that's like, oh, it's the end of the contract. We've got to figure out a way to do this. This has been something, according to Michelle Kang, that had been in the neighborhood of a year. The walk-up was there. You're trying to get everything squared away. And you want to make Washington a destination. You do that by hanging on to players that want to come and play with a Trinity Rodman, want to win a championship in Washington. And so you have all of this that is attached to it. And you have an interesting element of this was the business impact. And you had Seb Salazar. He was hosting in Los Angeles, but you also had CEO Kim Stone along with Haley Carter and Michelle Kang in the initial Q&A. And Kim Stone said in the press conference that you have Trinity Rodman leading the league in individual jersey sales for 2 leagues, and that Michelle Kang had mentioned that they could figure out when lineups, when player availability was figured out leading up to a match, when you could figure out starting 11s that were attached to matches. You could sit there and quantify literally, and Kim had come up with I'm guessing, a program, and I'd love to find out the conversation. I'd love to have a conversation with Kim about this kind of a program and see how much really she could divulge. But the notion of they could figure out in real time the impact that Trinity Rodman could have on a match day, could have on their sales of stuff in the store, and stuff going on at Rowdy Outy. So they can quantify this, and they can gauge, and they can sit there and monitor all of the impact that Trinity Rodman has in the day-to-day aspects and match day aspects of the Washington Spirit. And so they could keep an eye on all of this real data. And Kim Stone could sit there and hand, in theory, a leather-bound document if she wanted to do it that way, or just sit there and hit an email with a PDF or something and go send. Hey, here's the impact that Trinity Rodman has on a day-to-day with Washington Spirit. And so that kind of quantifiable information reinforces the ideas of keeping a player like that. So you have this information that's available to you on a daily basis. Hey, what does it mean today? It's almost like looking at like a soccer EKG. It's like, okay, she's engaged, we're here. Or graphs and charts and such. So you have now a way to monitor what Trinity Rodman can do for your club on a daily basis. Michelle Kang, Kim Stone, and now Haley Carter wanted to hang on to that because they understand the impact that it has, not just for them, but for the league and for the, basically this hemisphere when it comes to soccer. And so you have that kind of an impact across the board. Trinity Rodman stays. Washington turns it into a destination. And that's what you're looking at now. Hey, I want to go play here. I want to play with her. I want to go play in this league. I want to play against Trinity Rodman and prove that I'm a better individual. You have all of this stuff that is now in play for the NWSL. And the salary cap, just to give you an idea right now, you had offers abroad that the Spirit couldn't match, and this is from Jeff Kassouf, under the constraints of the salary cap. Salary cap was $3.5 million a team last year. Cap's expected to be at 3.7. There was the conversation and the question about hip rule and where this contract flies or where it is locked in with the hip rule, but it is still being decided, if you want to use that word, with the NWSLPA filing the grievances. They're trying to figure out the hip rule, Does it fit? Does it fit? Can it stay? What's it going to look like? Haley Carter said that the contract has benefited from the implementation of the hip rule. No surprise there. And so, with this grievance that was filed 9 days ago, you're still trying to figure out what the hip rule is and what it means and is it going to apply and all those kinds of things. But Haley Carter also said that they have a legally binding document. They have a legally binding contract with Trinity Rodman. So contract's a contract. And they plan on fulfilling those obligations that are set forth in that document that was signed in Los Angeles yesterday. So that's where you are with Trinity Rodman and the NWSL and right now Washington Spirit as a magnet for other players and for the NWSL to be a magnet for other players. Lindsay Heap's in Denver. Keep an eye on that. Sophia Wilson, we mentioned her 7-figure option that kicked in the Pacific Northwest. Now, who else wants to be a part of that magnet with the NWSL? And I saw a headline the other day. Morning, David. I saw a headline. Let me see if I can find the headline. And I almost started, literally, I was like, seriously? That's the headline that you want to have. And it was an op-ed piece. So, don't get me wrong. I understand that it was an op-ed. Let me see if I can find where is it? See, now that of course you want to try and find something, you can't find it. But it basically, let me see if it's in the op-ed section. So, but the headline was, players leaving the United States would not necessarily be a bad thing. And I'm paraphrasing, and I've got to find it, and I'm trying to remember where it was. But the idea that, yeah, it's okay for players who are in the NWSL to leave and go and play elsewhere. It's not necessarily a bad idea. Okay, here we go. USWNT stars going abroad may not be the worst thing. And I was thinking to myself, okay, national team players honing skills abroad bounced by concerns over a weakened NWSL. Well, the phraseology there is a bit off. But that was the headline of this op-ed piece. USWNT stars going abroad may not be the worst thing, except for the continued growth of the NWSL, if that is, in fact, what you want. You would have folks who are riding on the other side of the ocean sitting there saying, no, come on over here. That's fine. No, that's not necessarily the case. Highest paid player in the history of the NWSL, highest paid player in the world. And so now you have one of the faces of the NWSL now, right there at the front of the line. But you've lost Girma and Thompson and Coffey. And you tried to figure out a way to hang on to Trinity Rodman. Now, obviously, we're going to keep an eye on the hip rule and the NWSLPA and all of those things. Frankly, and we've had this discussion as well in the past about Larry Bird exceptions and all those kinds of things and where the league can go, should go, could go, those kinds of things. So keep an eye out for the legal side in the NWSL. But for folks overseas to sit there and say, yeah, these players leaving their home country and coming over here, it's not necessarily, that's not necessarily a bad thing. May not be the worst thing in the world. For USWNT stars going abroad may not be the worst thing. I mean, it has its merit, don't get me wrong, because it does prove that U.S. soccer has some of the most talented players around the planet, regardless of position. And they are being recruited to go play overseas. But the idea, it may not be the worst thing in the world. No one's saying that it wasn't. But for the NWSL, this is important as you are trying to take those next steps, as Bart Keeler has said on this show, and I think it's safe to agree that the NWSL is the top to bottom most competitive first division women's league in the world. But there are those that are overseas that would sit there and say, WNT Stars going abroad may not be the worst thing. Take all of the heavyweights and move them overseas. Yeah, I mean, it's true because you get to showcase the WNT talent. But if you can find ways to keep that talent in the United States, and Trinity Rodman has said there might be a time when she would go overseas, but right now is not that time. Spirit found a way, and right now it is under the constructs of the HIP rule. Like I said, we have talked about how it could be implemented, and maybe it would be more conducive to agreement with the NWSLPA and the league if you did stuff like the Larry Bird exception in the NBA or what have you. But right now, key moment for the NWSL, heading into this next stage of its lifespan, you get to keep a Trinity Rodman. You have players making over 7 figures. Trinity Rodman is making the highest salary women's player in the world. So a cool moment for American soccer and a cool moment across the board yesterday in Los Angeles. And so it is 9:30, which means we get to catch up with our mogul in training who is properly hydrating. And we don't mind proper hydration during a segment. That's perfectly fine. So we bring in Michael Parkhurst from Beyond Goals Mentoring. Cap, you feel properly hydrated, sir?
Morning, John. It's a constant struggle. I try and do a good job. My body tells me around 5 p.m. that I've not done a good job every day.
Does your body sit there and it's like, bruh, lactic acidosis, and you're kind of just limping into the garage and sitting there going, it's like, I'm going to lay out for a bit.
I tend to do well, I think, from wake up until about 10 a.m. ish.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happens around lunchtime. I forget to drink.
Well, I was going to sit there and say, you're good from, wake up until 10 a.m. And I'm sitting there thinking, that on Fridays, that's when he wraps up this segment, when he sits there and he goes, God, what have I just put myself through again? And I've got to figure out how to fix this situation just in time for lunch.
Something like that.
I told you last time that you were here 2 weeks ago that I was going to wear something on the air, and I found it, and it was in the washer and the dryer, and it did not shrink. So yay for me and laundry skills for a change. So what I wanted to do was display right here. Let me move the drawstrings so I'm not blocking the entire logo. And I wanted you to kind of explain this a little bit as a part of your mogul in training this. Hope, power, friendship, and providence. Don't look in the mirror, John. Just sit there and do this. So, hope, power, friendship, and providence. And this was something really cool that Rhode Island FC did. And as I told you last time, it was a no-brainer for me to pick it up. And so I figured I would wear it today. What has the response been like introducing this to fans of soccer, regardless of where they are? But what has the response been like there in Rhode Island from the feedback that you've been getting for this to go on sale for a reason? So go ahead. For those that don't know, I guess tell the story here.
Yeah, well, I think it's obviously dealing with the Brown University shooting, and proceeds are going over there. And I honestly, off the top of my head, I forget the backstory of the hope, power, friendship, where those words came from. There's something, and then we added the providence. And but yeah, it's the response has been really good. Obviously, it's a small community up there, and there's a lot of angst about what occurred. Obviously, everything in the world that's going on right now, but also, it wasn't handled great. And so it was a big story up there. So, to try and just give back and, help out a little bit. That's what we're trying to do. So we appreciate it, John. Thanks for supporting the cause.
Oh, absolutely. No, it was a no-brainer on my end. And knowing and following, as the news junkie that I am, following that the whole situation along as it was breaking and all this kind of stuff, what it means to these communities. And to have something that is tangible so folks don't forget, I think is important in situations like this. So we can always be reminded about what's important, what you can do to, in some small way, to be a part of a healing process, whatever that is. But it's important to be reminded of these events, how important it is to be supportive in these moments as well. I thought that was clutch.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I'm just reading about why, just to remind myself about the Hope, Power, Friendship, Providence. It's from a local artist. And the quote was, "Rich folks live on Power Street, and friendship is a one-way street, but most of us live off hope." So.
And so that was a very, very cool thing that you guys are doing there at Rhode Island. And since I'm talking about Rhode Island, Mr. Mogul in training, you are in the throes of getting everything ready for USL Championship again. Where is roster construction, sir? What can fans expect in Rhode Island, sir? What can they look at here in USL Championship as you're getting closer and closer? What, about 5-6 weeks away from kickoff?
Yeah, March 7th. So roster construction is looking good. Like I said last time, we needed to move on from a few pieces, which we've done so now, and we needed some more flexibility. And so we got that. We've added a couple MLS pieces, Leo Alfonso being one from Atlanta. And, we got a right wing back from Charlotte, who's a very good player. And we added a loan piece from Argentina. So that was good. And we're not done yet. We're still in the market trying to see what else is out there. No rush, though, which is a nice place to be. We're not in a position where we have to sign someone, which is nice. So feel good about where the group is right now. They've started preseason this week. They head down to Florida. I think it's a week from today. So they'll head down there and play a few games. So
yes,
the roster is looking pretty good. And speaking of Rhode Island, John,
yes,
it has come in.
There it is. Oh, that's fantastic.
If and when we all survive this winter weather storm that's coming up,
there it is.
I'll get this out to you.
That would be fantastic. And of course, either one of two things is going to happen: that the boss is going to hijack it and she's going to wear it no matter what, or I'm going to race it and put it in a frame. We just have to figure out where we're going to frame it here in Office HD. So now that is very humbling. When you do send it, could you please put your John Hancock on there?
Sure will.
So that way it goes immediately into the frame and the boss doesn't steal it, because she knows the value of, so Cap actually signed this thing. I can't wear it because you can't put it in the washer at that point because you've signed it. Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Very, 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 very cool and very, very humbling that you would do that. When it comes to, we talked last time about what you had learned about 25 coming into 26 and all of that, with training camps starting, and we're getting ready for the high school season down here in the state of Georgia, and you're getting tryouts and teams being assembled and things like that. Let me ask it this way. When it comes to, if you have a student athlete that wants to do something for the first time, they want to be a part of something when it comes to their school, high school, region, whatever, and they want to jump into this for the first time. They've done the sport, but they haven't done it, in a high school setting or an organized setting, and they want to try to hop in for the first time. What advice would you give for someone who wants to be in that organized setting? They've enjoyed the game, but now they want to get into that organized setting and be there for their school or for their area. What advice would you give those kinds of student athletes?
Yeah, to find information first, right? Understand what the commitment is before you jump in. Because, I know that there's some players on my daughter's high school team, and they don't show up for the trainings, in the off season, or they're doing preseason workouts right now. It's before tryouts, and they don't show up, and then they expect to play when the season starts and things. And so just knowing that there's a commitment level to anything, and you have to be able to follow through with that commitment in order to have success and even find enjoyment, because being part of a team, the more you're around the team, the easier it's going to be to make friends and fit in and enjoy your experience, which is what everybody wants to do. So that would be my number one thing. Find out the information, talk to people that are doing it already or have done it, and ask them what their experience has been like and if they have any advice. But also keep the expectations a little low. It's okay to work your way up. There are juniors who play on JV, and that's completely fine. And then, senior year, maybe you have an opportunity to play varsity. So things like that, I think that are really important, because especially with school stuff, it's really to enjoy being part of a team and enjoy the experience of the 4 years in high school. So I think it's really valuable that everybody finds their niche and finds their group.
Well, and at the same time, especially in the high school game these days, and I know that, you can sit there and you go into the individual leagues and travel ball and all those kinds of things. But with high schools in and of itself, and we had this discussion with some high school coaches in South Georgia a couple weeks ago, and they are still on the learning curve with their programs. They're successful in a lot of other sports, but soccer has a lot of growth it's got to do, and there's growing pains with these programs. They're not winning in region games. The loss column is a lot heavier on the right-hand side of the dash than the left-hand side of the dash. And you have coaches who are engaged and they want the programs to grow, but they understand that it's going to be steep and it's going to be long. When it comes to talking to these coaches, what advice would you give so they don't get disheartened when it comes to trying to build something that they believe in?
Yeah, it's funny because I was just watching this thing about Bodo Glimt in Norway, and they were talking about how the coach literally doesn't say the word win in like the last 3 years. He doesn't say win. I don't even think he says losses. So he doesn't talk about wins or losses. He just talks about performance and how the team is playing. And so, and that's what's most important to him, because results can come and go, regardless of if you play well or poorly. So that was interesting for me. And I think it kind of goes along these lines of, everything is such a process, and it can be difficult to stay with the process when the results aren't there. But again, I think that especially for a new program, it's building that process and making sure people are enjoying themselves, and until you can get a couple players that are now all of a sudden like, hey, this looks like a cool experience actually. And those are the players that can maybe help your program win a few games. And then all of a sudden it snowballs. But, there are programs everywhere, and we have them here, where kids don't play because they know the coach is a disaster. The program stinks. The trainings are way too hard. The coach is a jerk, things like that. And that's tough too. So, coaches have a lot of influence over the program. Even if the losses are piling up, kids can still get better and kids can still enjoy themselves. And that's honestly what's most important.
When you have these coaches who are honks, and I mean, this is, I guess, the adult peer-to-peer part of the program. When you have these adults who are they're counter to what it should be, and you have student athletes that are stuck in these situations because that's their high school, and they don't, they can't advance one way or the other. They can't just transfer in the middle of a year. They can't move or do those kinds of things. I mean, what advice would you give those student athletes who are stuck in a situation, trying to enjoy themselves, but they're going up against that brick wall of a coach who's an ass?
Yeah, it's so tough. Those are tough conversations, and sometimes an ass is an ass, and sometimes an ass is a decent person who's just coming across as an ass. Mm-hmm. And the formers, that's tough to deal with. That's when you hope parents can kind of step in and say something and help out. But the latter is more common. And what we try and tell some of our athletes is take in the information and the guidance, leave the tone and the attitude and the way it's coming out of their mouth, leave that. Don't take that in. Just take the information, and that's difficult. It's not easy, right? But over time, you hope that they can, listen to get better, but don't let the actions, the negativity, the body language that comes with it, the tone, affect how they're playing out there, and that's tough for a lot of kids. So those are really tough conversations, and that's why coaching is so important. These coaches have so much influence over our children and their experience and their love for these games, and so it's so important that we continue to train these coaches and help them grow, because they're shaping a lot of our youth.
How have you and Greg thought about the idea of mentoring fellow adults? I mean, you talk to parents. I know that you talk to parents of student athletes, but what about the coaches' ideas? Do you have conversations with adults who are coaches and get to kind of steer them away from, the good person who's an ass, that category B that we were just talking about? Do you ever get to have those conversations?
Not much. We're still young enough where we're still trying to find our groove and focus on what we're good at and things. And so we had mentioned it to a couple of clubs when we were trying to figure out clubs to work with and partnerships and things. But it's tough. It's tough with these coaches. And that's honestly some of the bad part is, they're not, who's open to it and who's not. Right. The people that are open to it are usually the ones that need less of it.
So how hard is it? Let me go back to when you were of that age. How hard was it for you to listen through a coach and get to the messaging and get to the ideas about improving your game instead of listening to a coach and getting all of the noise that might be blocking the learning? Did you have that kind of experience as well? And how did you go through it and learn through it and listen through it?
Yeah, when I was young, I was really fortunate because I had a good coach. He was hard on us, but you knew that he loved us, and he was such a good guy, and everybody loved him, and the parents loved him. So I was very fortunate. But in high school, I did have a hard coach. He was tough, and he broke a lot of kids. But he was also one of the best coaches I've ever had as far as information and knowledge of the game and tactical knowledge and introducing all those things to me. So he was one where, it was definitely take in the information, sometimes ignore the rest of it. And, I will admit I had it a little easier than some of the other guys because I took in the information and I used it where other players didn't, and he got progressively harder on them. So it's tough, but and it takes a little experience. It does, and it takes a confidence. It does, to know that, hey, regardless of this tone, I can still go out here and do this thing, and there's a reason why I'm still out here on the field, and he or she hasn't taken me off, and I'm still on the team, right? They don't hate me or they don't think I'm terrible. It's just they're having a bad day or something's going on with them, but I'm going to keep doing my thing.
Yeah, when I was playing baseball, and this is back in the days of black and white television, by the way, I had one coach literally yell at me for not paying attention during a pickoff attempt, and he said, "It'll be a cold day in hell before you play first base again." And he said this out loud during a game, and literally people accepted it, and it was just like, "Oh yeah, he's just being a hard ass." And so, suffice to say, that season for me was not very, very bountiful and beneficial for me when it came to baseball.
Yeah.
You mentioned confidence. How confident are your mentees these days across the board?
It's the biggest topic we speak about with athletes, for sure, because the range is so big. And the first thing we say is confidence is a skill. It's not you have it or you don't. And it's not if you have it, you always have it, right? It comes and goes. It can constantly be worked on. It constantly needs to be worked on. It's always tested, right? So yes, there are some people that in general are more confident than others, the way they carry themselves. But even they will go through some tough times where that confidence gets tested and gets beaten down. And so it's regardless of how they are currently, we still talk about, how do you keep it? How do you get it back? How do you make sure that it's a positive and not a negative? We talk about the benefits and the importance of it and how to play with it. And so there's a wide range. There's plenty of kids who come to us because their confidence is down, because they're going through a tough time. And, we try and build them back up.
Confidence being a negative? I mean, that seems counterintuitive in certain ways. I mean, how can confidence be a negative? Are you wrapped up in the idea of, yeah, I'm good, and you're not seeing what's going on around you, that lack of awareness or knowledge? Confidence is a negative. I thought that was interesting when you mentioned that.
Yeah, well, number one, lack of confidence obviously is a
Yeah.
negative, but
Right.
for sure, too much confidence can be a negative, because that's how you become complacent. That's how you think that you're always going to be one of the best players on the team, and you know, you're.
You ain't seeing the forest for the trees, are you?
Yeah, I was trying to think of a nice way to say something that I shouldn't say on here,
Dude,
but
we can put the E rating up. It's all good. It's no worries there.
your poop doesn't stink, basically.
Your ish is not what you think it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So, we talk about that line between confidence and cocky. And, players don't love playing with cocky players, right? They are locker room killers, and they just, it's tough. And you want players to toe the line, because that's where a lot of greatness is. But you step over that line, and it's a slippery slope to you're going to fall at one point. And so, yeah, too much confidence can hurt you in the long run. But it's easier to adjust that than it is to, if you've got no confidence, trying to build up to get to be a confident player.
Let's talk about the zero folks. How many folks and mentees have you come across that are just, when they come to you and Greg and Zara, it's just like, my tank is on empty. I don't know where I'm going to get it, where it's coming from. How many of those extreme individuals have you guys been able to try and bring back to the beginnings of the bell curve here? How many of those extreme cases have you had?
Yeah, only a handful. We've had more that they were confident and now they're going through a tough time, versus the players who just are always seem to be in a tough time. And those players are challenging, of course, because you want to help them and you feel for them. And I try and speak to moments and experiences that I had where my confidence was shot, and just trying to normalize the fact that not everyone is super confident, and sometimes you have to learn to fake it till you make it, and then it will help you increase your confidence, right? We talk about like body language and how you speak can help trick your brain into being a little bit more confident. So yeah, we've definitely dealt with some, but thankfully not the majority.
Well, and I would imagine that, when you put on the uniform, when you put on the gear to represent whatever you're representing, whether it's club, high school, what have you, if you're lacking in confidence, I would imagine that putting on that uniform makes you stand a little taller. You put the gear on, it makes you, have that feeling inside of I know what I'm representing here. I have to project X, even though I may not be there. I would think that, being a part of that community helps out with that. Something as a gesture that's as simple as just putting on the jersey and understanding that you're a part of that team.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you've got pride in that organization, that team, that school, whatever it is. That's important. And yeah, that is a big part of it. And that's for sure something that I always thought about when I was putting on jerseys, and how awesome it is to go out here and represent and play in front of people, and try and show them who I am and all those things. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of that. But it does come down to, pride in yourself, pride in the team, pride in who you're representing.
How many times did you have to at least just put on the veneer and sit there? It's like, I know I'm not at 100%, but I've got to get out there and do my best, even though I'm not all the way there. How many times did you have to just understand that, yeah, I'm not there. I got to put on a good face. I got to do it right, and I got to give my best, even though that best wasn't there.
I probably spoke about it when I in previously here, but I trained a little bit with the under 17 national team when I was in high school, and it was the worst experience of my life. I hated it. It was brutal. My confidence was shot. I couldn't wait to be done with it. I hated going to practice every day. It was tough. So I use that a lot when I speak to kids, to let them know, like, hey, I went through it too. It should have been one of my best of experiences. I had a 16-year-old getting to play with the under 17 national team and stuff, and it was brutal. Because I was the new guy. They were all buddy buddies. I didn't have a friend to pass the ball to. Like, it was just, a bunch of teenagers like not welcoming the new guy at all.
Yeah.
And it crushed me. And so yeah, it was tough. So I speak about that. But then there's also periods like, I go over to Denmark and I'm not starting every game, and like, oh, I got to go play a reserve game with, a bunch of 18-year-olds when I'm 24, trying to get up for those games. When I'm in Germany and I'm not playing, and, I likewise, now I'm older, I'm like, late 20s, and I'm going to play reserve games with the U23 team, with a bunch of 19-year-olds and 17-year-olds, and, getting up for those things. And, the confidence gets hurt a little bit in those instances, for sure. And, bad seasons like I had with the crew in 2016, where it was just like, we couldn't win. And, I'm the captain, and, you just have to put on the face like, hey, everything's going to be all right, and keep going out there and keep losing.
Oliver Gage, sporting director of Fort Wayne, is going to be with us here in a couple of minutes, just to give everybody a heads up. You mentioned it just sucking in general when you're outside of the clique, and I'll use air quotes, and that's $1 in the jar for me, but yeah, using air quotes. When you're outside the clique and you're the new guy, how do you balance wanting to do what's best for the team, knowing that you're the outsider, knowing that they've got to dance with you and you've got to figure out how to show what's best for them? Is it just being there at practice every day, showing up, not shaking off all of the nonsense and all the clique? How do you integrate when you're outside the clique to try to be a part of things and be productive?
Yeah, that's tough, especially for someone that wasn't super outgoing like myself at that age. And I think that there's two things that I try and tell kids in that situation. One is try and find one player or two players. Usually there's a couple players that aren't totally with the group or have that attitude or whatever, and try and find them and get yourselves in with those players. Or have the mentality of, I don't need to be friends with these players in order to have success, and my success and showing it on the field will bring me part of the group, right? Sometimes I have to earn it on the field and show it before I get the acceptance. Now, I wish it wasn't always that way, and I tried to be that teammate that wasn't that way, but in a new environment, sometimes show it and it will help you become part of the group.
Okay. So what is up with you and beyond goals, other than fighting Mother Nature and building snowmen and not slipping in your driveway the next couple of days?
What is up? We've got, I don't know, we're setting out the tone for the rest of the season, and got a lot of different things going on for this year. Just talked to Jimmy Conrad about partnering with doing something with center backs and a video kind of analysis thing. And we're putting together camp ideas, a free clinic for a city of Atlanta, a camp up here in Columbus with a one Darlington Nagby. So
yeah, I heard of that dude.
Yeah, just different things. So yeah, we got a lot going on, but it's exciting. It's fun.
Yep, Nag Bay. Yeah, it'll be good for you to catch up with Driver and find out what's going on with him and all that stuff. As always, it's great to see you, my friend. Great to catch up and get the wisdom and the knowledge that is there with you. And is Deacon crashed out to your left on the floor?
Always, John. You know it.
Yeah, yeah, whatever.
He's there.
What? He's like, yeah, whatever. Fine.
Yeah, living a tough life.
Absolutely. It's great to see you, my friend. And obviously, don't be a stranger. Anything happens, just knock on the door. Otherwise, we'll be knocking on your door every once in a while to find out what's going on at Beyond Goals Mentoring at BG Mentoring at MF Parkhurst. And it's always great to see you. We'll catch up with you next time, my friend.
I'll let you know when the jersey ships.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Michael Parkhurst. Now he's going to get to 10 o'clock, and that's when he gets his crash. That's how this works. So he said he's good from wake up until about 10 o'clock. And so he needs like a live cam inside his house to sit there. And it's like, okay, 10 o'clock. And then you see what happens. All right. This is fun. When we get into new teams and clubs and locations and growth of the sport and all this kind of stuff, one of the places that we like to gravitate toward is USL League One. And this year they have this explosion of clubs. We've been to Corpus Christi. We got to see what it's like there. And we're taking the tour. We're going to catch up with a lot of folks. We sent out a bolo to Fort Wayne, and we're getting to go to Fort Wayne. And we get to find out what's going on there with our friends at Fort Wayne Football Club. And hanging out with us, Oliver Gage, the sporting director. Oliver, it is great to see you. Thanks for dropping by the morning show.
Good to see you, John. How's it going?
You tell me. You're the one trying to build this bad boy. What's it been like for you so far?
Unsurprisingly, I'm going to say busy. Signing 20, 25 guys in an off season instead of the standard 6 or 7. It's a lot of work, USL is an interesting kind of layer of the soccer pyramid, right? Where the very, very top leagues, there's so few profiles that are appropriate for the league level. It's an instant filter, right? But as you start going down the pyramid a little bit, the volume of players that you can potentially assess just explodes. So the NCAA is a really common market for USL clubs. You got 300 teams in the NCAA, and obviously not every player in the NCAA is appropriate, but like there's so many that are potentially USL quality guys. And then you look at the rest of the world and MLS Next and MLS dropouts and stuff like that. It's a very big player pool to try and somehow navigate.
What attracted you to this particular gig in particular? I know your relationship with DeMarcus dates back to the time in Houston, but specifically what attracted you to want to do this in Fort Wayne?
Yeah, it's funny. People look at my crossover with DeMarcus in Houston and probably think like, oh, he hired his buddy or whatever from back then. I always kind of tell this story like I didn't even know it was still DeMarcus's phone number when I texted him about the job. We haven't not like we weren't friends, but we didn't really talk at all in between me leaving Houston and about a month before I was hired at Fort Wayne. So I kind of reached out to them when I saw the opportunity. Me and Bees agreed to speak on a Zoom or whatever, and it all kind of went from there. And I think at the end of my first Zoom with him, he kind of sat there and went like, wow, I didn't realize that's actually what you did at Houston behind the scenes when all the players went home or whatever. So kind of went into it blind in that regard. But what attracted me to this job was a couple of things. The way everything ended with me at Loudoun was very disappointing. Being let go from your job when the team is literally top of the USL Championship with one of the lowest budgets in the league. Having never played a playoff game in their history, being let go for reasons that were absolutely not kind of anything to do with job performance is hard, especially when you got a young family. So I was looking for a project with probably, trying to say it without saying it, with a bit more integrity, to be quite honest. I'm looking for a little bit more security in the ownership group. And you look at the Fort Wayne project, you have DeMarcus Beasley, Hall of Famer, probably the most recognizable name in US soccer history in terms of what they've gone and done abroad and stuff. He's building a football club in his hometown, a pro football club. And then you have Mark Music, the other kind of majority owner, again, somebody from Fort Wayne who's building a 9,000 seating stadium in his hometown. So this is legacy for the two owners. This isn't a team that's renting a baseball stadium and, seeing where it goes and potentially could fold in 2 years and some of the worst parts of the USL. This is a project that's here to stick around for the long term. And you got two guys that are in it that are extremely passionate about their hometown. And so an awful lot of the somewhat risky aspects of working in the USL are not existent in Fort Wayne. And for me, when you've got two guys that are this passionate about getting it right, I think we're going to mess some stuff up in the short term. We're an expansion team. You're not going to bat 1,000 and get everything right in year one. But I think decisions will be made here for the right reasons, and that's kind of what's at the core of what I want to do with my next project in football.
Yeah, when we were covering, I'm just gonna. This will be like a paragraph before we move forward. When we were discussing on the morning show with our USL specific pundits and experts about what was going on with Loudon, with you, and with Ryan, and lack of investment, all these kinds of things. Yeah, we were sitting there and we were raising the people's eyebrow with everything that was going on there at Segra and everything that you guys were trying to do, despite everything that was put in front of you. So kudos for surviving that, first and foremost. My next thing for you is, with your resume before Loudon, it was the Canadian Premier League. And so that was something that was new and trying to establish its own identity in the other places that you've been. Have you always thought of yourself as a builder when it comes to being in these situations, young franchises, trying to sit there and build them and, have them be there and be that legacy for the futures? Have you always thought of yourself as that way?
Yeah, a little bit, I think, and I'm not sure it's necessarily like legacy driven. I think certain people have got different skill sets, right? And I think I'm quite good at setting things in place, like structures in place that hopefully last. And, I was the first ever analyst in college soccer back in the day. I built an analysis department at the University of Virginia, right? And then I went to Houston. They'd never had an analyst before. There was like 3 analysts in the whole MLS when I joined Houston. Same thing, Canadian Premier League, brand new league. Like bit of a blank slate. So I think I kind of just resonate towards blank slate type projects, and I think, Loudon was a bit of a weird one because it was definitely like kind of like turning around a ship versus building it from scratch. But it was almost blank slate-ish in the sense that, like, you're not trying to turn around existing infrastructure. There is no infrastructure. So it's an existing club, but you didn't have anything to try and change that had existed from previous years because there wasn't anything. Segra's like a shell, modular stadium. It's where you train as well. There's very little kind of continuation in staff and players and stuff. So there wasn't necessarily all this existing culture and things that you have to try and turn around that you get a lot of places when you come in. So that again was almost like a kind of infrastructure building job, and that's what I was hired to kind of do. And the way things happened at the club behind the scenes just didn't really pan out the way they were planned to, or at least I was told that they were planned to, when I accepted the Loudon job. So yeah, I think I'm kind of suited to that sort of a project.
What have you learned about Fort Wayne? What does soccer mean to that area? What is the footprint like? What's the response been in the community? Do you get to go down the corner to the convenience store, to the grocery store in your neighborhood? Do they recognize you? Are you handing out index cards with the standard responses of yes, no, answer question 1, yes, we're excited, those kinds of things? What have you learned about Fort Wayne with your time there?
Oh, what I've learned is head coach Mike Avery is much more famous than anybody else around here. I was actually I went and got lunch with him yesterday at a local sub shop or whatever, and someone recognized him and asked him first, and they spoke for like 5 minutes. And I think the guy had asked him if he could get him some free tickets or something. And I'm stood next to him. No one knows who I am here, which is great. Like no one generally knows who the director of soccer or sporting director, whatever. It's like I'm not on the TV cameras. I'm not in the front of everything. So and that's good. Mike's better looking than me as well, so it works well. But yeah, I'm certainly not famous, and I don't plan on being famous in Fort Wayne. But yeah, DeMarcus Beasley and Mike Avery, they're the celebrities around here.
When it comes to the footprint and what the sport means to that section of Indiana, what's the feedback that you have garnered about what football means there in that part of Indiana?
Yeah, they're super passionate, probably more passionate than I realized. So I'd never been to a Fort Wayne game when I took the job. Obviously in the process of applying and whatever, I started doing my research, and I kind of saw the stadium solution at the time and stuff. And then when I accepted the job and came here and experienced some of the USL 2 games this summer, I was quietly surprised about A, how passionate the supporter base was, B, how many of them there were. You know, like for a USL2 team, they were drawing like 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 fans at St. Francis University at the stadium there. And I kind of thought like, wow, this is a club that's ready, you know, this is a club that's ready to take it to the next level. Now, it might not be, you know, like a Portland Hearts of Pine where they could probably sell that stadium 10 times over, or like Ann Arbor or anything, but there's an undercurrent of a fan base here, and the club's been building it for 4 or 5 years. You know, it's not a brand new expansion club that, you know, literally has never kicked a ball of soccer like some other expansion clubs. It's a USL2 team that's transitioning to the pros. So there's a little bit more there than I think some other expansion teams.
When it comes to roster assembly, I would hope that you either have unlimited Zoom, amazing WhatsApp capabilities on your phone, or that you have international minutes that you can sit there and just, you know, figure it all out. What has the process been like for you to assemble this roster? How far flung has it gotten when it comes to bringing talent in? How has your phone blown up? What has the process been like in getting this roster together?
Yeah, I mean, WhatsApp runs football recruitment behind the scenes. I'm sure you've heard that before, right? Like there's all these like platforms and this and that and the other, like $100 million deals in Europe go ahead through WhatsApp, you know. So the staff have got a WhatsApp group. Every agent contacts you on there. Yeah, my phone is flashed like 5 times on this conversation already. You know, it just, that's the way it works. You know, when you work in this industry in the off season, you're only ever 30 seconds away from having to drop everything and tell your wife, like, I got to go do something for 2 hours. I'm really sorry. It's just what happens. But yeah, the process is generally, you know, players will come our way. We proactively search for players, of course. Like I'm like data driven, right? So I have a short list, and we have a data analyst here who we work on finding players using the data. And then they go through the traditional process of, you know, scouting from the coaching staff. And then we have a discussion around how appropriate we think they are. And then players will come into us through contacts, agents, you know, and it's not just me. Every member of staff has got a network of people that they trust and they work with. So we kind of crowdsource incoming player requests from agents and people, and then put them through a very similar filtering process to get to a decision really on how interested we are in them. And anyone who we have enough interest in, we'll jump on Zoom for an hour, get to know them, ask them a little bit about who they are, feel them out, and give them a chance to ask us questions. You know, I think one thing we've heard from players that have spoken to multiple clubs this year is that I think we've been a little bit more open with people about what we're trying to do here and the plans for the club, and also where we don't think we're doing a great job and we might be struggling a little bit in this area. And, you know, I say on Zooms and stuff to players all the time, like, I want you to ask me the tough questions and it won't be held against you. Like, it's much better for me to lose a player right now and never get them in the building than to bring them in and in April they realize they made a mistake and we lose the player and they're under contract. And, you know, like, I'd rather have almost like a clean start of players who really, really want to be here, even if we lose a couple in the recruitment process.
What's the hardest question you've gotten from a prospective player who might be on that roster now, but what's the hardest question you've gotten in that give and take in the Zoom?
That's a really good question. That might be the hardest question I've had in the off season. I think the hardest, maybe not the hardest individual question. I think the hardest challenge we've had to answer, and I can talk a little bit about our recruitment philosophy in general and how we're building the roster because it's relevant to this conversation. But the hardest thing that we've had to answer is, like, we're selling an idea versus a reality. You know, the stadium isn't there yet. There's a few pictures on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, but it's an idea right now. And the idea of how we want to play, yeah, we've got some games from USL2, but now we're going to have almost a completely different roster. Is it going to look the same? You know, we're telling young players, we're actually going to play you. You know, you're going to get minutes here. And one of the reasons why we think we've secured some of the players we've had is that we want to be a little bit younger than most USL1 teams, you know. But then some of the players have turned around and said, like, that sounds great, but you've got no proof that you're actually going to do this. You're just telling me you're going to do it. And it's really easy to tell someone you're going to do it if it ticks the box that you think they want to hear to get them in the door, right? So And that's true, you know, and the reality is there's no hiding from that. You just have to say, like, you're absolutely right. What can we do to convince you that we're real about this? You know, so they're generally good questions, and I kind of like that when you get challenged, because it shows the guy's kind of switched on and gets it a little bit.
So when you are, when you're having these conversations, you mentioned that you're data driven. And I know that you have your parameters, you sit there and it's like, okay, this, and this is what I'm looking at. How do you, in a data driven approach, measure intangibles like heart, desire, drive, those kinds of things? How do you mesh what data doesn't give you with what you find out from the outside of data?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I find it hard sometimes to understand what intangibles do that doesn't show up in the data if you know how to use data appropriately. So let's just take some of the things you said there, like heart and desire and whatever. The assumption is that if someone's got desire and heart and whatever, that's eventually going to have a benefit on the pitch, which is why you sign them, right? If it has a benefit on the pitch, the guy should be making more tackles, setting up more goals, scoring more goals, doing something that you can say is a benefit to your team. So if a guy's got more heart and desire, you're assuming there's probably some defensive ability there that some other players don't have. Well, that shows up somewhere on the stat sheet. And even if you can say, like, well, it's just so many little things that, you know, he's just a winner. Okay, well, you can reverse engineer it and say, like, when he's on the pitch, does his team play better and win more games than when he's off the pitch? You know, so there are some very, very unique cases where there might not be something you can measure, but I don't necessarily believe that there's that many unmeasurables in soccer.
Because, and the reason that I ask that is because I know that, and you mentioned it, that you don't get that second chance to do something the first time. And you're going to be looking for a specific kind of individual on the field and off that can represent in the community, that gets what you're trying to do and has those intangibles, but can also contribute on the field.
Yeah.
There's that quest. It's a unique quest for a first year for something like what you're doing there in Fort Wayne.
Yeah. So that's where maybe it's a little bit different, where you talk about who the person is in terms of personality and the way they carry themselves. I think there's super passionate, super, like you said, winners, as you want to call it, or, you know, people that are super full of all the things that you want in a player on the pitch that can be the wrong person off the pitch as well. But yeah, I think when you talk about building a club and a foundation of, you know, how we operate and the type of personalities we want in the locker room, that's where the interviews on Zoom and whatever come in. And, you know, there's guys that we've spoken to that we really liked from a soccer point of view, and we finished the Zoom and we said, you know what, let's take a minute on this one because we don't feel like they're going to be a great fit. And there's some guys that you get off the call and within 30 seconds, we've all agreed, like, yeah, we're offering this guy a contract in an hour's time, you know, like, it's done. So I think that's where it's a little bit different.
All right. So let me ask about one guy in particular that's known in this footprint. Recent signee, Javi Armas, who we've seen as a part of Atlanta United too. And we've spent a lot of time with Javi and know that he is salt of the earth guy. He's going to give it to you. He's going to give it to you for 97 minutes in a 90-minute match. That is unparalleled. Great guidepost for folks on the pitch and off at the practice field. What did you see in Javi Armas that you're looking forward to and having him be a part of there in Fort Wayne?
Yeah, exactly that. You know, so in Javi, we see a player that is going to be not just a focal point of the team because of his position, but a focal point of the locker room too. You know, I mentioned earlier a bit about our squad profile. Javi's probably going to be our third or fourth oldest player. We're not going to have 8 guys that are like 28 years old or 30 years old. You know, we've signed a 31-year-old, another 30-plus player, and that's it. And then after that, it's Javi, as the roster stands right now. So we see him being a leader in the locker room and on the pitch positionally. You know, he's great on the ball. And I mentioned earlier about everybody's network. You know, like we got connections in the pro game, in the college game, you know, all over the place. And every single person we spoke to about Javi said, like, go get him. Like, don't overthink it. Just go get him. he's great. So from like Oregon State down to Atlanta United and everywhere in between, we must have had 5 guys that like you can't even finish your sentence before they're like, stop talking, just do it. He's great. So yeah, we love him. We're really excited about him.
When it comes to the to-do list, and I always ask this when it comes to either a first-year individual in a front office or a first-year franchise or a combination of the two, I know that you have a to-do list between now and the beginning of the 26 season. It could be in a Google Doc. It could be, buried someplace. Folks might have them on their old Blackberries, something to sit there. It could be a shared document. Could be an email. Could be a legal pad. It could be one of these old notebooks like we had in high school, that's got all the pages and all the notes and everything. It could be off frame from where you are, away from that calendar, that big 6 foot by 8 foot dry erase board that's got a bunch of squiggles in different colors and destinations and lines and everything. Where is your to-do list when it comes to finishing assembly for the 26th season? And what do you think the next thing you can cross off that list is as you get ready for 26?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you're not asking physically where is my to-do list, because the answer is like some of it's on a notepad, some of it's on my phone, some of it's on the whiteboard, because there's things scattered all over the place, and that's expansion life. In terms of where is it, where do we sit in the grand scheme of things? We're getting there. I think we're probably a little bit ahead of where most teams are in terms of roster construction. So we've got, I think, 9 players announced. We've got a few more signed. So we're on like 14, 15 players now. We're in a pretty good spot there. I think we got more players signed than some other teams. We have all the players are arriving today, tomorrow, over the weekend, ready for a Monday start. So we got physicals today and medicals and some other stuff. And then as the guys come in dribs and drabs, we catch them up. So things are starting to happen here. It's a little bit like the day before a concert, being, the stage is still being constructed while, someone else is doing something over here. Like, literally, I don't know if you heard the noise out there.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's building something in the offices right now. So like, it's a little bit all over the place, but we're on track. There's not really much that I'm extremely concerned about here and saying like, oh, we're behind on this one. So we're in not a bad spot.
No, I did want to know where that list physically was. I also, in addition to where you were, I wanted to know, where is that list and, what is left on it. Obviously, we're going to be knocking on your door a lot, and we're going to be catching up with what's going on up there at Fort Wayne. It's a big year in USL League One with like 98 first-year franchises diving into the league, and it's going to be an 18-team league. Oliver, I can't thank you enough for diving in on a Friday while construction is going on around you, while they're building the concert stage, while you're welcoming in players. Do you want to break some news about player signings? You can do that. We can break.
I don't know. The media guy here is kind of a big dude. I think he could take me in a fight, so I'm not gonna push it.
Yeah, and obviously,
what I could tell you is I think there might be one coming out today. I think.
Okay, and obviously, thanks to Justin for doing this on the hop for us. We can't thank them enough. Can't thank you enough for dropping in on a Friday. We'll be knocking on your door again, especially as we get closer, and we'll monitor everything in USL League One. Thanks for dropping by on a Friday. Stay dry, stay away from the construction, and we'll catch up with you soon, Oliver. Thanks for dropping in.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
There goes Oliver Gage, sporting director at Fort Wayne FC. And we always want to sit there, and it's like, when you want to break some news, you can. We're not going to sit here and say no. You always want to break news. But yeah, one of the things that we were noticing as we're sitting there and looking at all these first-year franchises is that Javier Armas was making his way up to Fort Wayne. And so had to ask about Javi. And so you want to follow Javi Armas from his time here from Atlanta United 2 and Atlanta United. He is now in Fort Wayne. And so that's why we got to catch up with that was one of the byproducts of wanting to catch up with Fort Wayne and see what's going on up there. So it's great to catch up with Oliver Gage, find out what's going on up there in Fort Wayne. And we are not going to be a stranger under any circumstance at all when it comes to what's going on in their first year build. Okay, time to prep you for the weekend. We do have an update, by the way. And David, when either Greg or Parky is on next, we'll ask that question. So we'll keep an eye on that one about when did they become friends and when did they want to assemble what we know as Beyond Goals Mentoring. So we'll keep an eye on that. We do have, obviously, the weekend preview and news and notes and everything that we've got to get into. One of those has to do with our buddy John Textor. And I feel like we should have like special music at this point for everything that is going on in the Textorverse and trying to find out what in the wide world of sports is going on. And it is going to be, let's just say, interesting. Let's just say it is going to be an interesting run through when it comes to anything and everything going on involving this gentleman going forward. Obviously, the decision for Atlanta United to be owed the $31 million that is there still has not been resolved. So that is still in play. And obviously, we're going to keep an eye on that as we go. But there have been some other developments, shall we say, involving John Textor. And it is, how do we phrase this? Not necessarily a surprise at this point that we're seeing what we're seeing. Couple of different things to update you on the John Textorverse. Textor Sphere, Textorverse. So Botafogo had a wall vandalized, I'm guessing by Barras and such. And the messaging on said wall was not too kind. The walls of the training center in Rio de Janeiro, the target of graffiti last night, messages critical of John Textor. Messages like John, and this is quotes, quote, John Thief, close quote. Out Textor, in quotation marks. Francia doesn't want you, Brazil too. And these were phrases that were spray painted on the training center, on the training center wall. And so fans are looking for more reinforcements here in the January window. Right now, you're under the embargo because you haven't paid the $31 million. So you could understand why Botafogo fans are kind of mad. Also, going to Belgium and our friends at Bruz, I guess it's like, Belgian Buzz or whatever, but BRUZZ.Belgium.be. Header from the article from Bram van Rentergem at Bruz. RWDM in dire straits, quote, owner Textor can never repay those debts, end quote. Van Rentergem's article about RWDM Brussels as they prepare for their first match after the winter break tonight. So it is away at Serang on Friday evening. The financial noose around the neck of American owner John Textor is tightening. The club's sale seems inevitable. Copy. RWDM Brussels has been struggling to pay its bills for some time now, according to multiple sources. Scouting platform licenses have been terminated. Suppliers have ended their partnerships with the club, and staff, including the medical staff, have not been paid, leading them to leave. Even players' salaries are at risk. The club declined to comment on this, quote, although we do emphasize that they have always been paid up to now, according to RWDM spokesperson Damien DeCohen. Transfer ban imposed on the football club, sound familiar, by the licensing committee reigns in effect. Quote, last night we received an update from all the clubs in the follow-up, including RWDM, says Niels van Brantegem of the licensing committee. Quote, if it turns out that things aren't in order, we will take any sanctions at the end of this month, end quote. Losing points is a possible sanction. So let's go into the rundown and see what Belgium looks like when it comes to its activities in the OFC Pro League right now. It is, let's see, so RWDM Brussels is not OFC Pro. I think they are in the Challenger Pro. If they are set to, so Genk, Kortrijk, Challenger Pro, OFC Pro. Let's see where we are here. So, okay, so RWDM Brussels right now in the overall standings, and this is the second division in Belgium. RWDM Brussels, middle of the pack. 19 matches, 20 points. They've lost 2 in a row, 5-5-9, and they are at 20 points. They are 8 points from safety. They're safe by 8 points. OC Charleroi is right now 12 points, and they are in the relegation zone. And so you've had a federation decision on one other club for reasons that we'd have to dig up, that France Borin, the team below RWDM Brussels, they're operating under a 1-point penalty. But anyway, you could have an RWDM penalty assessed, the points penalty assessed to RWDM if this continues, but that is a decision to be made by the Challenger League, Challenger Pro League, the second division in Belgium. Even without this drastic measure, the article continues, RWDM's in dire straits. So we mentioned John Textor. So, and they kind of go through all of the dynamics of the financials. Holding company includes Botafogo and Lyon. To buy Lyon, you had to borrow heavily. And we know about this because of the conversations that we've had in the past where it has been massively, the amount of money that has been given to him has massive interest rates attached. And in our conversations that we've had with our friend Jason Stevens back in 2025, it is because of the pieces of John Textor's business that are outside of soccer that people continue to be a part of his business inside soccer. Inside soccer, you have folks like Evangelinas Marinakis, the man in charge who owns Nottingham Forest, as an example. And it is the relationship where Marinakis wants to get into the South American marketplace. And you remember the conversation that was had where Textor said he was misquoted about the relationships and the fees that were going back and forth between Forest and Marinakis' group and Textor for player transfers from the Brazilian theater up into England. And that's a place where Marinakis wants to be. It's a place where Textor is. And so you had those transfers going back and forth. And there was the question in the long give and take that he had with the one fan podcast program where he said he was misquoted about things, and he went back to try to recorrect what was translated and what he said in that conversation. So bookmark here. Keep an eye on Evangelinas Marinakis as we go forward. But anyway, so Textor had to borrow from Aries. We've mentioned Aries before. We can go back and look at that if we need. $450 million. Annual interest rate of 16 to 22%. This we know. We've said this, but once again, RWDM, Brussels, and our friends at Bruz are now putting this back out there in the theater. So $450 million, annual interest rate of 16 to 22%. So payment in kind system is used. Interest doesn't have to be repaid in cash, but can be added to the principal, which then accrues interest and so on. Useful if there's a cash shortage, but it also causes the debt to balloon. So this requires revenue. Lyon posted a loss of just over 200 million euro last year. The 190 million pounds Textor earned from the sale of his stake in Crystal Palace had to almost be entirely channeled to Aries. And Aries right now is in the process of almost being bought out. We'll pick up Botafogo here in a second. So Aries decided to freeze repayments for at least 12 months to give Textor time. Aries knows that Textor will never be able to repay that, according to RWDM expert Alain Mesquez, and that remains enormous. So we'll get into the third part when it comes to Eagle football and what's going on with Iconic and in England in a bit. This was something that we talked about yesterday. And when we went off the air, our buddy Nino Torres said, I got to come back on. Something happened in South America. So we're going to put a bookmark in Textor for a second. We've covered two of the three. So let's bring Nino back in and find out what's going on. My friend, what's on the board?
Hey, Johnny, I like a text you yesterday, man. Good morning, everybody. You should energized, but not today, man. Not today. We just had a terrible news yesterday. We were on the show, actually, when this happened, when the news were aired in Argentina, because three players from Alianza Lima being accused of sexually assaulted a lady in Montevideo during their visit to the country for the Serie Rio de la Plata soccer summer series in Montevideo. It just blows me away, man. You play you play the sport that you love, man. You have the life that many of us would dream to have, and then you just throw it away like that. And the in Alianza, in the case of Carlos Zambrano, the three players that were involved in this situation were Carlos Zambrano, Miguel Trauco, and Sergio Peña. All
Yep.
three national team players.
Mm-hmm.
National team players. And it's crazy, right? Because a month ago, they were interviewing Zambrano, and he said something like, "If you want discipline, go to the army, go to the Air Force. This is in Alianza Lima. It's different, and we of course we work, but it's not like discipline is one of our, I don't know,
Yeah.
core values or something, you know."
Yeah.
A month ago, he said that,
Yeah.
a month ago. And that's not the news exploded. I mean, it was everywhere yesterday. I mean, my phone was blowing up, but we were on the show yesterday. I was like, "Bling, bling, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on?" And then I checked it right after, and news were all over the place. And also the Comando Sur, which is the ultras of Alianza Lima, they sent a statement at the end of the year saying that because they were sick of all the parties, all this wildlife that that Alianza Lima players are been having last year. But it's a culture in Alianza. Okay, it's a culture in Alianza. They're the party goers. They're the wild boys, and it's been like that. But in Comando Sur, they send the statement, right? You better behave next year, right? Because the rivals are on the verge of winning 4 in a row. They're not going to put their things together. Things will happen. And Johnny, with the midst of this news, they went to Matute. Alianza Lima was training in Matute, and the Ultras went and beat up, I don't know how many players, 4 or 5 players at training.
Wow.
And they said, we warn you. We warn you. And they also said another statement yesterday. I don't have the whole thing, but probably I'll pass it on to you later. So the beat up, Carlos Zambrano was beat up. Sergio Peña was beat up. And then in this situation, the technical director, Franco Navarro, hasn't released a statement yet, but things are going to be, serious actions coming, serious actions with serious consequences,
Yeah.
And we'll see what they do. Most likely they will be being separated from the roster. I don't know if they're gonna release their contracts. I don't know what's the outcome yet. As of today, I mean, I don't have it's not an immediate action that they're taking place. And on top of that, they have the presentation tomorrow. Inter Miami is coming into town today. They should arrive already to that by now. And they're gonna have how is he gonna present those players? It's not. It is insane, Johnny. So those are I just want to tell you. I want to share this with the audience. And now I'm gonna put one small caveat here. Okay, probably because I've seen it happen. Right, you've seen it happen in the States where accusers later on they say, "No, I lied."
Right.
And a person has been in jail for several years,
right?
And it's been it's like a pattern now that they were involved with players, and then after they got the money, they they let it go, they drop the charges. We're far away from that now. Right now, the accusation is real. The lady, went to court and got his lawyer in Argentina. The situation happened in Montevideo, but she does this. I'm quoting this that she was scared to do it in Uruguay, so it took 2 days, and then went to Argentina and went to the doctors in Argentina, and she even got the clothes that she used that day out that night, and so the more details are gonna come up, and we'll see. We'll see how they're gonna do it. I'm curious, really curious. I'm not defending the players here. I'm not defending anybody here. But
No.
I'm just saying I want to hear the entire story. I want to hear exactly every single detail of what happened that night. But as of now, they're being accused of sexual assault.
Yep, and we've got some details that we will relay as well here. But obviously, first and foremost, these are accusations that have been put out on alleged incidents, and so this is where we are. But obviously, we'll keep an eye out for all of this. And while you were discussing it, I was trying to find other information, and I have found more detail on this. Obviously, you will keep us posted on your end as to what is going on. Yes.
So what?
You're gonna keep us posted on your end on all of this, right? You're gonna keep us posted.
Yes.
Once you find out.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, Johnny. Absolutely. I want to follow up because details are going to come up every single day. So I'm pretty sure that by next Thursday, when we meet up again, we'll have a more complete story in what was happening, because there's the accusation is in Argentina. I don't know if they're going to take them over there. I don't know what's going to happen. So they got hired lawyers here, lawyers there. It's a hot mess. It's a hot mess. It's crazy, man.
All right. Obviously, thanks for the heads up on this. And like I said, just keep us posted on all this stuff. I know that we're going to officially reconvene next Thursday on stuff, but obviously as things continue to grow and we get more information coming into newsrooms and things like that, we'll obviously add to it. Thank you for the heads up, my friend. Have a fantastic weekend. And you're the man, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, Johnny. Take care, guys.
All right. That's our buddy Nino Torres in Lima, Peru. I was digging up some other information from La Diaria Deporte in Uruguay. Here's how they reported it, and this was yesterday. So Alianza Lima indefinitely suspends 3 members of their first team squad. Nino mentioned who they were: Carlos Zambrano, Sergio Peña, Miguel Trauco, according to Infobay and other international outlets. And it comes into a response to a complaint filed by an Argentine woman who accuses them of the assault in Montevideo, where they were holding a preseason training camp for the Rio de la Plata series. Alleged incidents reportedly occurred on January 18 at the hotel where the team was staying. According to the complainant's testimony, after having dinner with one of the players whom she already knew, invited to the hotel, and that was when the alleged assault happened. Filed a complaint in Argentina, underwent medical examinations, as Nino said, provided evidence for forensic analysis. A statement released yesterday. The club announced measures it took. Quote, the club has indefinitely separated the players involved from the first men's team, and a disciplinary procedure has been initiated against them in accordance with our internal regulations. Furthermore, our institution expresses its full readiness to collaborate with the authorities while corresponding investigations are carried out. Club emphasized their absolute commitment to the values that underpin it: respect, discipline, and integrity, end quote. And there is a screen cap of the document that was put forth by Alianza Lima. 3-letter paper in England says this. And Nino mentioned the storming of the training facility. So they have the annual tradition as they're getting ready for their matchup against Inter Miami. Peruvian Giants have an annual tradition called Noche Blanquiazul. Playing squad new players introduced to fans at the training session. And that was what Nino was discussing. They have that moment. And so there are pictures on the 280 character app. Angry fans invading a pitch during the training session before the matchups with Inter Miami. So The 3 players, once again, we mentioned who they were. Reported by ESPN, the alleged incident happened. Trio of stars indefinitely suspended. During the training session in Matute, as Nino said, angry Lima fans stormed the pitch to confront the players about the situation around 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon local time. Number of fans seen on video moving through a gate at the Estadio Alejandro Villanueva, usually reserved for media access, so the fans go through the allegedly go through the media entrance, chasing players around the pitch before confronting them. Argentine newspaper Infobay reported also physical assaults during the exchanges. ESPN reporter Leonardo Bertozzi reported Paulo Guerrero and the newly arrived Luis Advíncula were among those who were allegedly attacked. Guerrero said to have been seen looking somber as he spoke to a member of club staff in the car park. After the session, players left the venue in private vehicles, did not speak to the media, and one of the club's fan ultra groups, as Nino was saying, Comando Sur, released a statement expressing their anger at the situation and translated. The South Command will not tolerate indiscipline regardless of its source, even if it's endorsed by the first team security. They've never respected the jersey, think Allianz is just a place to hang out, collect bonuses for something their salaries demand. Results. Players like this don't represent us. We don't want them at the club, end quote. Allianz Lima have been obviously approached for comment. Inter Miami set to due to take on the team Saturday before a second match against Atlético Nacional on January 31st. And then their tour is against Barcelona SC February 8th. And then the opener February 22nd against LAFC. And there are pictures, like I said, on Twitter of fans racing over after they had breached the gate and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, we'll keep an eye on what is going on there with everything involving those players and the assault that is now being investigated with those particular players. So obviously it's a situation we're going to keep an eye on, and Nina's going to keep an eye on it for us. And hopefully, like I said, that was very cursory research on my end, trying to add to what Nino had brought to the table. So obviously, we're going to keep an eye on all of that, and we want to thank our friend Nino for coming in and letting us know about that and its gravity and its importance. And so when we have those kinds of things, remember that this is an alleged assault being investigated currently. 3 players have now been removed from the first team as Inter Miami is getting ready for that matchup as a part of their preseason tour. So obviously can't thank our friend Nino enough for dropping by and letting us know about these kinds of things, and as a part of our news gathering here when it comes to everything at SDH. So just first and foremost, just be safe down there on the weekend, because you don't know where things are going to spill over and all this kind of stuff. But just a big note for our buddy Nino, just to be safe first and foremost this weekend. And obviously, as things continue to develop in that case, we'll keep an eye on it. If it warrants coming back in, he'll come back in, and then obviously we reconvene on Thursday and we'll catch things back up from there. Okay, so put a bookmark in that story, and we'll hang on to it again next week. All right. So getting back to the John Textor date, the John Textor verse and the Textor update. Item number 3 involving John Textor has to do with the lawsuit in England. Aries obviously is not Textor's only creditor. Iconic wants the $93 million. Remember, John Textor had sued Iconic in Miami as Iconic had sued him in England. And so they want their $93 million because of the IPO that was promised to them. It never materialized. Iconic Sport won their case, and the appeal hearing is going to take place next week in London. So you have that going on. Actually, it went. The appeal is now, I guess, now under advisement. Sorry, it happened 2 days ago. My bad. RWDM, obviously, it's part of that holding company. And now the questions are, okay, why aren't you paying bills and things like that? And so you're looking at a team in the middle of the pack in the second tier in the Belgian pyramid, and it is affecting them now as well. So keeping an eye on all of that. Now, the 97 million, 93 million, whatever you want to phrase it, the Iconic update, Matt Slater, who is a follow working for The Athletic, and he is also somebody that you got to keep an eye on as well. And we might reach out to Matt and see if he can break things down. So here's the John Textor take and the Iconic take when it comes to the judgment that was rendered today in Mr. Textor's, and this is courtesy of Matt. Today in the appeal, Court of Appeal determined the High Court made an error in its earlier decision on preliminary issues, sent the matter back to be reconsidered. Significant step forward as a favorable decision on remittal would bring the case to an end entirely in our favor. And this is Textor's Textor side talking. If remittal doesn't dispose of the matter, we will take it to trial with confidence. Either way, we fully expect to succeed. Then the other side, Iconic. Then we're delighted with the Court of Appeals ruling today, which dismissed John Textor's primary ground of appeal in full and awarded costs in Iconic Sports' favor. Commercial Court will now decide the remaining issues, and we will seek to resolve the matter as soon as possible. Based on the two rulings of the courts to date, we fully expect judgment in our favor and for Iconic Sports to recoup the more than $97 million that it is owed. So right now, Textor tried to get an injunction against Iconic, failed on appeal. Now it goes to court. Iconic is confident that they'll get the $97 million. And so he failed to overturn the ruling. And you end up with losing the legal appeal. And so that's where we are with John Textor and the Textorverse and $97 million. With Iconic Sports Eagle investment dating back into July 4th. So if you do John Textor and Iconic, literally, if you do that search, then that's what you end up staring at. So lost a ruling in October, appealed, and then you continue to try and kick it down the road, and kick it down the road. And John Textor so far has just been kicking things down the road. He's confident about it going to trial. And so you end up with losing the legal appeal amid the ongoing dispute with Iconic. So that's kind of what you're staring at here. Lost the bid as far back as October. Continued to kick the tires on it. And he's not had any success. It's on Caseboard if you want to take a peek at it. So that's kind of where we are with John Textor. Keep an eye on that. So it's $97 million to Iconic, and he's going to kick that can into court. $31 million with Atlanta United. We've yet to see any kind of an ending there. And so that's where we are with this. He owes a lot of money to Aries Management at a very high interest rate. And Aries Management is in the process of possibly being bought out themselves. So keep an eye on Aries, keep an eye on Evangelinos Marinakis, and keep an eye out for everything else as it continues. David with a great idea. If I need a Textor sound, the whammy noise from Pressure Luck or the Family Feud X would fit very well. They would, but I'd probably have to continue to hit the button and just smash it and smash it and smash it, considering how many times something goes wrong. So that's kind of, that's where we are with the Textorverse. And what is going on with our buddy John Textor there. I'll reach out to him again, like I always do. I will reach out. I will DM him on his Instagram, and I will let you know what we come up with if there's anything that ends up being brought about. So, second division club in Belgium isn't paying their bills. Botafogo is in a transfer embargo until 31 million or some number that is agreed to will remove the transfer embargo, and it's a 3-window embargo. Fans of Botafogo spray painting the training center, Textor out. And then he has the $97 million court case with Iconic. Appeal once again denied. And I think he's looking forward to taking that one to trial. So we'll see what happens with John Textor involving $97 million, $31 million, and not paying your bills. That's kind of where we are this morning. So 3 separate countries and John Textor all in one segment. So you got that. So that's I'm trying to see if there's anything else that I might have missed. Oh, Galatasaray in some report is saying that Galatasaray is interested in Thiago Almada on a loan. Let me see if that comes forward from Santi Auna yesterday, who is French, Paris United, Mercato, Transfer News, Foot Mercato, etc. 369,500 followers on the 280-character app. Galatasaray bid to Atletico Madrid for Thiago Almada, a loan fee of over €3 million, salary covered, option buy still in discussion. Thiago Almada very attracted by the project of Galatasaray and has already spoken with the coach Okan Buruk. Apparently, according to Santi, a green light has been given by the player. So he would be going from Atletico de Madrid possibly to Galatasaray. Since half of the transfer rights, according to A Sport in Turkey and Salim Manav, once again bringing him on loan. Salim has 167,000 followers in Turkey. Since half of the transfer rights are with Atletico de Madrid, has expectations of 15 to 20 million euro for half of the transfer fee, 35 to 40 for the full amount. So that's kind of what you're looking at with the Galatasaray if they are interested in going all the way down. So €3 million fee, agreeing to cover the salary, purchase option being discussed, and Almada's been given the green light to Galatasaray, once again, Foot Mercato. And as of 6 hours ago, we have an update from our buddy Yagiz Sabuncuoglu that Atletico de Madrid has rejected the loan offer from Thiago Almada. So rejected at the moment. Keep an eye on it. So rejected currently, probably a negotiation point. But keep an eye on Thiago Almada, loan to Galatasaray. So this could be almost 2.5 moves before Atlanta United has been paid. $31 million still in the balance. Botafogo on a transfer embargo. And right now, Thiago Almada possibly, if all of everything lines up, he could be heading to Galatasaray for a next stage to get more minutes. So keep an eye on that going forward here for the remainder of the window. And remember, the Turkish window is open longer than the European window. It's another week that's added on. So dealing with Turkish clubs, not as much of an emergency as it is dealing with the rest of Europe. So keep an eye on that going forward. All right. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, all of the transfer news. And we do have some transfer updates this morning in Major League Soccer. And Inter Miami has signed keeper Luis Barraza. So it's looking more and more like that is going to be a very crowded area inside the six for Messi and friends. Sign Roca Rios Novo, sign Luis Barraza. That is officially official, as that has come across the wires this morning. Signed him to a free agent contract through June of 2027, extension option until June of 28. So you'll remember Barraza was under fire last year at DC United. So June of 27, extension option June of 28. That is official. The Revs loaned Santi Suarez to San Antonio of the USL Championship. And trying to see if there is anything else that we might have missed when it comes to anything in Major League Soccer. We'll check on it in a second. So Thiago Suarez, loaned from the Revs, and that is to San Antonio FC. All right. What to watch? Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. I knew we were going to go longer than 11:05 this morning. I just knew it. All right. So gossip as we know it coming into the weekend. Shocking no one, Mo Salah is a prime target for the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote, as well as Vinicius Jr. And insiders believe from that particular league that Salah is going to go. Tottenham's keeper Guillermo Vicario, interesting Inter Milan as they line up a replacement for Jan Sommer. Crystal Palace have held talks with Wolves regarding a move for Jurgen Strand-Larsen. Once again, that's looking at 30 to 40 million in request. Manchester United ready to open contract talks with Kobe Mainoo, according to Sky. Chelsea also considering a loan move to sign Douglas Luiz, who's on loan at Forest from Juve for the rest of the year. Charlotte is interested once again in Harvey Elliott, who's on loan from Villa and Liverpool. And Leeds and Sunderland are both set to miss out on a move for Norwich's Josh Sargent. Once again, we've mentioned the whole Josh Sargent saga. He wants to go to Toronto. Right now, he's with the U23s. He is not getting first-team minutes. Apparently, there was, the conversation that Tom Bogert had on Morning Footy on Golasso Network yesterday. Apparently, there were words spoken about his family in the meeting with the front office brass with Norwich. That was the last straw. Sargent wants out. And Philippe Clement has basically said, well, he ain't leaving because he doesn't have just 6 months left on his deal. He's got 2.5. So Philippe Clement is adamant at the moment publicly that Josh Sargent isn't going anywhere, because if you say, yeah, we want to get rid of him, then you lower your position when it comes to the negotiating. So keep an eye on Philippe Clement and press conferences today if those words come out. Arsenal looking into signing 16-year-old defender Iago Machado from Corinthians. Roma, several other clubs are in the race for Joshua Zirkzee at Manchester United. That's from Florian Plettenberg. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else in the lower divisions. Norwich have competition for the signature of Kasper Hoeg, who had the double against Manchester City for Bodo Glimt. Hearts apparently are also interested as well. And Jan Valeri from Sheffield Wednesday being chased after by 3 clubs, including Wrexham. And that is it for the gossip over there. Let's check with our buddy Ben Jacobs and see if he can add any signings or anything else to what is going on. So Ben Jacobs and his discussions. Liverpool set to approach Roma to recall Kostas Tsimikas if Andy Robertson moves to Spurs. Robertson has told Liverpool he's keen on the move. No formal recall clause in Tsimikas' loan. Sources close to the player made it clear he wants to return to Liverpool. Chelsea have been sanctioned by the FA after a bottle was thrown toward Villa's bench at the end of their match in December. Chelsea's admitted they did it. Regulatory Commission now imposed a £150,000 fine. Julian Alvarez is now being chased after. Deco held a meeting on behalf of Barca. Arsenal has been made aware of the situation with Alvarez. Exploratory talks, according to Jacobs, are commonplace, not yet indicative of a direction. Andrea Berta making several calls to understand the market. Arsenal, also one of the clubs interested in exploring Eta Young, along with Barca, Real Madrid, and Manchester United. Villa set to re-sign Tammy Abraham after reaching a verbal with Besiktas. Optimism that the deal could be figured out despite a negotiation that required multiple trips to Turkey. He's already agreed on the move. He'll return to Villa Park, where he was in 18-19, and he scored 26. So all of this appears, according to Alex Crook and Ben Jacobs, to be a formality. Ipswich has signed Anis Mehmeti from Bristol City for £3 million, signing a 3.5-year deal. Leeds' bid for Strand Larsen was in excess of £30 million plus add-ons to try and attract Strand Larsen from Wolves. Does this start the Sam Surge discussions again if you end up with Strand Larsen moving from Wolves? Keep an eye out for that, all the dominoes that are attached there. Jeremy Sarmiento waiting for permission to undergo his Middlesbrough medical. Final fee, including add-ons, in excess of £5 million. Nothing in the rumors from Wrexham. West Ham have rejected a new formal offer from Flamengo for Lucas Paquetá. Changed the structure, but they're sticking at €40 million. The new bid, 35 plus 5. Paquetá still wants to go. West Ham want 45 or north of that to sell in the summer. So keep an eye out on Paquetá. Apparently, according to Ben Jacobs, there are 50 names on the list that the league that we neither condone, endorse, nor promote is trying to pull from leagues in and around Europe and around the world. Sosa has joined Spurs, Santos for £13 million and signed a long-term deal until summer of 2031. He's wearing number 38. He held up a jersey, did not have his number on the back. We didn't get to see the back, but that's the jersey that has been signed. Sosa aiming at the camera, and it was done and dusted there. So it was an opportunity for Sosa, now at the age of 19, to sign for Spurs as they get very, very busy here in the last week of the market. Yesterday, we talked about the big changes on the transfer window. Another couple of things: no age restrictions on intra-league loans and no limit on the cash trades. The intra-league cash deals that we've seen, you can only get 2 players and only trade away 2 in cash. They wiped away those limits. So keep an eye out for those as well. You were looking at, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's any other movement. Hull City finalizing a deal to sign Paddy McNair from San Diego. Hull's manager confirmed that it probably would be done by the end of the week. Paddy McNair wanted to go back to the UK. Ethan Horvath looks like there's being a deal closed in on him and Red Bulls from Cardiff City. He was on loan at Sheffield Wednesday for the first half of the year. Thomas Aviles Deals being finalized with him to leave Inter Miami and go to CF Montreal, loan with a purchase option. And Miami had a +1 with their U22s. Aviles gets moved on. So that way, Aviles gets more minutes, probably starting, and Montreal gets a young center back in the deal as well. So that move was attached to all of that as well. So once again, Aviles out. He's heading to CF Montreal. Horvath looks like he's heading to Red Bulls to be a part of their discussion at keeper. Orlando City nearing a deal to acquire Slovenian center back Dusan Stojinovic from Jagiellonia Bialystok. And our friend in the Polish market, Tomasz Lodarczyk, was the first one to announce that one. Tom Bogert has come in behind at 25, a center back, won the Polish League in 24. Still working on a deal to sign Iago from Flamengo. Orlando City is. Apparently there is room for both. And that is something to keep an eye on as well. So that's your early rounds of all of the transactions and such heading into the weekend. Okay, just to give you juice boxes and what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and anything else that comes across our bow before we get out of here. All right, this weekend, 5 matches in the Prem on Saturday, 4 on Sunday, and Monday Night Football. So here's what you have. West Ham favored at home against Sunderland at a +144. Sunderland in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, almost a +200. Burnley a dog at Turf Moor. Spurs come to town at a +104. Burnley a +264. Keep an eye on that one, considering what Spurs did in the midweek. Fulham favored at Craven Cottage at a +154, hosting Brighton at a +172. Manchester City probably looks to get out the whooping stick after losing to Bodo Glimt in the midweek. -455, hosting Wolves at a +1,000. Bournemouth is your 12:30 matchup, hosting Liverpool at the Vitality at a +274. Liverpool a -112. 4 matches on Sunday. Brentford at a -112, hosting Forest at a +317 at the G-Tech. Crystal Palace a +250, hosting Chelsea, who's an even money +100. Newcastle a -102, hosting Villa at a +260. Arsenal is your late game at a -182, hosting Manchester United at a +495. Sorry, hydration. Monday Night Football, Everton and Leeds. Everton a +147. Leeds a +195. And your draw is a +218. Now, let's see if there's anything that I might have missed on the news wires. And let's see what we have here. Nothing there. And some folks are saying things, and they're really locking all of my things and trying to get information. Okay. All right. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. That is brought to us by our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. And it is, that link is important, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps them, helps us, and helps you, adding more matches to everything that you're already watching. Fanatis, you get BN, TIC, matches from Argentina. Copa de Argentina is going on right now. You got a lot of great upsets there. You get a lot of other leagues from South America, Liga 1 Max Pro, all in one place. One subscription, one home. Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Now, what to watch today? And we'll kind of blend it into the weekend and talk quicker as we go further away from today. BN and Espanol, Liga at 2 o'clock. O'Share and PSG. ESPN Plus has the A-League, 3 matches. Bundesliga at 2:20. Bundesliga B, 2 at 12:30. Bundesliga Bundesliga 3 at 1 o'clock. La Liga's at 3. Paramount Plus, Serie A, Inter and Pisa at 2:45. Derby County, West Brom at 3. Women, Frauen Bundesliga at 12:30. DAZN USA, Union Berlin, and Bayer Leverkusen. A-League and the Women's Super League on the Plus. It is Everton-Brighton, that's at 2 o'clock. Now, Saturday, leagues and locations. BNB and Espanol, Ligue 1 and Ligue 2. They've got a quadruple header. CBS Sports Network has the English Championship at 7:30 in the morning. USA triple header in the Premier League. BN and Espanol simulcasting what we were talking about. ESPN Deportes, your standard quadruple header from La Liga. Universo triple header in the Premier League. ESPN Plus, A-League, Eredivisie, including Ajax and PSV. Bundesliga, 6 matches, 5 of them at 9:20. Bundesliga B, 4 matches. Bundesliga 3, 2 matches. in the quadruple header from La Liga. Fox O&E, Serie A triple header, Serie B in the league we don't talk about. Fox Soccer Plus, Serie B in the league we don't talk about. Paramount Plus, Serie A triple header, 5 matches from the championship, including Wrexham and QPR at 10. League One, 7:30 in the morning. League Two, the Carpetbaggers that are there from my AFC Wimbledon perspective take on Shrewsbury. That's at 10 o'clock in the morning. Peacock has 2 matches at 10 that are not broadcast on USA. Women, U17 CONCACAF Championship at 5 o'clock. Dominican Republic and Dominica, they are not the same. TNT or international friendly with the U.S. and Paraguay, that's at 5:30. True TV, Universo simulcasting. U17 Championship is also on Fox O&E. Triple header 5, 6, and 8. Liga MX is also on Fox O&E at 7 and 9. Fox Soccer Plus, 2 matches from the U17s on Saturday. HBO Max, Peacock simulcasting the international friendly. Sunday, BN has Liga 1, CBS Sports Network English Championship and Hearts and Celtic. USA, Crystal Palace and Chelsea. BN and Espanol simulcasting. ESPN Deportes quadruple header La Liga. Fox Deportes, Bolivia, Mexico, 2 o'clock Sunday. Telemundo, Crystal Palace and Chelsea. 2 to N8, Bolivia, Mexico. Same with Univision. ESPN Plus, A-League, Eredivisie, Bundesliga, Bundesliga B, Bundesliga 3, quadruple header La Liga. Fox O&E, foxsports.com, international friendly, league we don't talk about, the U17 championships, also on the .com. Paramount Plus, championship, Serie A, 5 matches, Hearts and Celtic from the Premiership in Scotland. 3 matches on Peacock. Women's side, Serie A Femenina and the U17 championships, 3, 5, and 7. FS2 has the night shift at 6, 7, and 8, which seems almost impossible, but okay. ESPN Plus Women's Super League, Villa Manchester United, London City, Manchester City. Fox O&E has Serie A, and 5 matches from the U17 Championship in CONCACAF. All right, so that's what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. All right, now let's take a peek and see if there is any other news that I might have missed. Pity Martinez, according to Cesar Luis Merlo, after now being a free agent after his time at River Plate, is now at Tigre, signed a 1-year deal. And we'll get into the poll once again early part of next week. Which would you rather? Would you rather win the World Cup with your country, or would you rather have your team win the highest competition that they are attached to? So keep an eye on that as well. All right, so let's check the papers before we get out of here and see if there's any stories that we might have missed. Ethan Wanyeri has joined Marseille on loan. And let's see. Okay, and apparently, according to Matt Hughes at The Guardian, which is something you never want, Sheffield Wednesday fans apparently delighted to hear one associate of James Board describe the preferred bidder for their club as a mini Tony Bloom, although the poker player's references from the other side are rather less complimentary. Until it became clear late last year, Board was planning to buy Wednesday. His data company had a consultancy contract with Sheffield United to assist with recruitment, which, as their position in the lower reaches of the championship indicates, hasn't given a whole lot of success. And so United's decision to fully endorse Short Circuit's data-led approach led to Chris Wilder leaving. And then after he took him to the playoff final, signing a long-term deal. Short Circuit also involved in the appointment of Ruben Sayas, sacked in September, and the return of Wilder. And so you have everything going on with Board and Evan Sofer, who were in line to try and pick up Sheffield Wednesday. So now you have all of the poker player no longer interested, Evan Sofer not interested anymore, and the relationship idea with Board and wanting to take over is apparently now mixed. Board's Wednesday consortium, completed by German-born tech entrepreneur Felix Rümer, Jordanian investor Al-Sharif Faisal bin Jamil, have said almost nothing throughout the takeover process, but they still believe that data is their way to go. Source involved in the bid said Board had paid a multi-million-pound deposit to Begbie's trainer, and responsible investment would follow. And then everybody's now referencing Board's activity at Dunfermline. You're looking at young players, data, and analytics. Neil Lennon was there for last March, saving the club from relegation. He got a 2-year contract. And so the deep dive by Matt Hughes is looking at what possibly could be there if James Board and his consortium were to take over Sheffield Wednesday. So that might be a bit of required reading for the remainder of the day. And so let's see if we missed anything here. I think we're good in that paper. Let's see if there's anything going on with networks and such. No, I don't want that one. I went one too far. All right. So trying to find out what else is going on the day. Trying to go through. Oliver Glasner apparently is committed to Palace after very good talks with Steve Parrish, the chairman. And no Mateta transfer request with the striker set to face Chelsea. But once again, remember, you're looking at 7 or 8 days left in the window. Anything is possible, but nothing involving Mateta and an exit this weekend, which would be the week after Mark Gahey and his exit to Manchester City. So conversations, 30-minute press conference ahead of the matchup against Chelsea. Did not regret his comments, according to Glasner. Very long dinner with Steve Parrish. They cleared the air, likened his situation to the sun shining after a thunderstorm. He did not rule out another outburst in the future. And Mateta's playing on Sunday. It was agreed in February of last year Mark Gahey would be sold. He'd originally planned to publicly reveal his exit at the end of the season in December. Daniel Munoz back in training. Ismail Assar is available after AFCON. Dean Henderson is captaining Palace for the remainder of the season following Gahey's exit. And so a lot of stuff involving Oliver Glasner and Crystal Palace going forward. So I think that is going to do it for yet another week here at SDH. Obviously, we can't thank y'all enough for being a part of things here in Season 10 and how things continue to grow with us here at SDH. Like I said before going in, be safe, be safe, be safe. Be safe this weekend, please. That's what we're looking for. We want you to be back here on Monday, power permitting, and we'll see what it all looks like. So thanks for another very, very busy week across the board. And to give you an idea about all of the guests that we had this week to kind of take you around the planet. Obviously, today we got to catch back up with Nino Torres. We got to catch up with Oliver Gage in Fort Wayne with Fort Wayne Football Club. Michael Parkhurst at Beyond Goals Mentoring. We got to catch up with our buddy Nico Moreno from Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart. We also get to catch up with Daniel Sperry twice, considering everything that's been going on in Kansas City with the club off the field and with the new ownership and everything going on with the player and the player assembly getting ready for 26. Maddie came by to talk about Atlanta and the twos. Abe and Bart also a part of the process as well. Next week, we are efforting a bunch of different folks from a bunch of different places, whether we're talking MLS Next Pro, whether we're talking USL League One, whether we're discussing anything and everything that is going on around. Hopefully, we'll be getting some of our experts and pundits back as we get closer and closer to the regular season in Major League Soccer, and we'll have all of it for you here. And we got the high school games coming up in a couple of weeks. High school schedule is going to be kicking on in a couple of weeks, too. So we got a lot of stuff going on here at SDH. And we could not be thankful for all of you for being a part of it every single time. So for everybody here at SDH, for Jason, for Jarrett, for Nick, for Maddie, for Sophia, and for me, thanks for dropping by for another go-around and another week of everything here at SDH and SDH AM. Don't forget, subscribe to Morning Espresso, the newsletter, and thankful to our friends at Oglethorpe University for being a partner with that. That's where Jason sets up the day, lets you know what's going on. Leads into SDH AM, which leads you into your day and hopefully get you prepped for the rest of your day and here for the remainder of your weekend. Stay dry, be safe. You don't have to go out, don't go out. If things get really bad in your part of the world, hoping to be back here, power permitting, on Monday, and we'll discuss it all. For everybody here, thanks again. Back at it again before you know it. And since it is the end of another week, you know how we wrap up the week here at SDH. Mucho platiel, play it safe. We'll see you soon.
The war was on. The keys on the typewriter had sharp points that kept sticking into our fingers. The dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like a cattle prod. Out in the warehouse, the trucks kept banging into the docks, not even thinking about strapped to the chairs, and our chairs were chained to the desks. Our pleas for justice were ignored, and the end seemed near. But we busted our slave drivers' little bitty balls. We've charged out of their brick fortress, the